Summer! After a long, bitter winter, it's finally nice and hot outside. Too hot. Well, let's stay in and cool off with some fishing games. The Black Bass is the first series of fishing games, well, ever. The series was one of the first to try and be more of a fishing simulator, rather than a more arcade-style game similar to the couple of games that were on the Atari. The Black Bass on the NES was one of the only fishing games on the NES, along with the Blue Marlin, and broke new ground by being incredibly boring. Let's dive in! The Black Bass attempts to create a more realistic fishing experience. You move your boat along this lake, pick a spot to cast, and then attempt to lure fish in. Right away you'll notice the lure dancing across the screen. This is so you can attract a fish. Apparently it's very realistic to jerk your bait all along the lake while a fish might come up and try to bite. And this is it. This is all you do. You cast, you slowly reel it back in, make it dance, and occasionally a fish will slowly start swimming up. The best part is you have no idea what the fish will be. It's 100% luck, or at least it sure seems that way. There's a handful of different fish you can catch, though bass are the only ones that matter. Bass are green and look, nothing like a bass. And that's a pike. And a trout, I think? Yeah, that was a trout. I'm sure you noticed that this game is incredibly ugly. I know this is an NES game and it's limited, sure, but what's going on here? Why does the land look like it's in the middle of everything? What is the perspective here? What's this? What is this supposed to be? It's jarring just how ugly everything is. It's like they tried to do some sort of perspective thing but forgot to add shading. It's all flat and weird. Some objects your lure can go under, others it can't, and hell, even the fish get stuck. And that includes when you're trying to reel them in. Yeah, the fish aren't programmed to swim around objects, they just head straight towards your lure. And while that isn't a huge deal usually, it is frustrating to get stuck like this. Oh, but the sound. Oh, the sound. You know, I had forgotten how bad it was. I complained about it in the Blue Marlin and even King Salmon, but here? Well, of course there's the ringing noise when you're about to break your line, but how about reeling in? This is every single time. It's supposed to be your reel. I get it. I do. But was it necessary? Simulator. It's a simulator. The music is draining on the ears. It's the same high-pitched beeps and bloops and isn't catchy at all. Instead, it just wears on you. Makes you want to shut the sound off, but you can't, because you have to have it on to hear the line tension in case it's about to break. It's a nightmare. And that's all assuming you can hook a fish in the first place. Like I said earlier, you have to attract a fish by making your lure dance around enough, and if the game decides to, throw you a bone. You've got a handful of lures to pick from, each essentially constituting as one of the game's lives. You can't earn lures or buy them. Instead, your line breaks, you lose that lure completely. You can earn more lures as you advance further into the game with more lakes and different types of lures, but they don't really make much of a change, at least as far as I could tell. Each lure does work differently, which I will say is pretty neat for a game of this time. It's just that getting them to work is far more difficult than it should be. The most consistent method I have here is just going back and forward and hoping for the best. Plus it shuts up the noise momentarily, so that's nice. When you manage to hook a fish in all of their ugly glory, you attempt to reel it in. There's not much to say here, just reel, hear the dinging, get irritated from the constant noise, rinse, and repeat. Overall, the Black Bass isn't just a grading game, it's a boring one. The attempt at making a simulator is there, I guess, but they forgot the factor of why people play games in the first place. Fun. Moving on, we also have Black Bass Lure Fishing on the Game Boy Color. I had this game when I was younger and played it all the time, and looking back, I'm not sure why. Kids are weird like that. It's basically the same game. You only earn lures by advancing to later stages like the first one. You move your boat around, cast out, reel in, try to make your lure attract a fish, and have absolutely no idea what it is until it bites. It's basically the same with a graphics upgrade. The biggest difference is reeling your line back in. Instead of it being the same static screen like the previous game, you're instead in this pseudo 3D perspective. It's still as difficult as the last game to hook anything. You've got these techniques you can unlock that can help you attract and reel in fish, but it's just as vague and cryptic as the NES title. When you do hook a fish, it's basically the same fish. Fun fact, bass have fangs apparently. Same deal, just reel it in, wait for the dinghy and... Wait a minute. What? They finally did it! Progress! The rest of the game is still very much mediocre. The music is basic as the sound effects, but listen! Silence! They finally figured out how to have a line tension meter. Oh, of course, that doesn't mean the game itself is any better, but it's the small things. Baby steps. Steps towards something super.